Hi everyone, I'm Jed Shlackman. I work as a holistic counselor as well as an energy healer and hypnotherapist. For the current video, I would like to speak about some archetypal roles that we play in life and seeing those through a perspective of balance. I want to point out that we tend to play multiple roles in life, and they often have a polarized quality to them where the role aligns toward one end of a polarity spectrum or another. An example would be a feminine role versus a masculine role. For the current video, the roles I want to explore are the roles of a savior or rescuer and a controller or enslaver. And often when we have someone come and play one of those roles in our life, or we're playing one of those roles in our life, there can be a shift or flip toward the opposite role, where the savior becomes an enslaver, for example. And you can observe that occur in individual relationships as well as collective or societal phenomena or dynamics. One example might be a population that's looking for some political savior, and they embrace someone or some group to become the new leader. They feel that person or group is rescuing them from some previous form of distress or oppression, something that was perceived as a problem that the population needed this saving or rescuing from. But then this new regime comes in, and whether or not they fix or address the problem that was there when they came into power, they end up becoming an oppressor, engaging in some form of authoritarian, control-oriented dynamics. In personal relationships, especially intimate relationships, you'll often see a pattern where there's a person who's looking for someone to rescue them. That might be emotionally or financially. So a person is feeling a sense of disempowerment in their life where they feel they need someone externally to come rescue them. It could be, for example, someone who's a teenager who has grown up in a very dysfunctional or abusive household, and then they want to escape from that household, so they find a partner, a boyfriend or girlfriend, who's kind of creating this opportunity for them to get out of the home. They see themselves starting an independent, at least independent from their biological family, life with this new person, this lover, this potential mate. And there are many cases where they have this relationship with this person who they met when they were in that kind of desperate state, seeking rescuing or saving, and then that person ends up becoming an abuser, ends up becoming very controlling and manipulative, and that person doesn't want to let the individual become more independent, more empowered to manage their own life. Sometimes when you're attached to being the rescuer or savior, when the other person in that relationship dyad starts to become more confident, more assertive, more independent, then there's a sense of feeling a threat to your role, or they don't need you to play that role anymore. And if you're too attached to that role, you try to cling on to it. You try to block that person from growing, from being more mature and independent, and so on. That happens in individual relationships. It can also happen at a group level or cultural level or national level. So it can become unhealthy to be overly attached to any particular role, not just for these two roles I'm discussing, but for almost any role in life. There are times and places where it's useful to be in that role, to play that role, but if you continue to hang on to that role in other situations or circumstances, you can end up acting rather dysfunctionally. It can become something rather negative or destructive. So I wanted to bring up that rescuer or savior role to point out that there can be a dark side to it when you start to overly attach to it or cling to being the person embodying that role. You can end up becoming the opposite in a sense. So rather than finding that balance where you can shift and not get stuck at one extreme or the other, some people will be on one extreme and then they'll be on the other extreme. That happens with many different things in life where we can kind of overcorrect. We get caught up in one polarity and then we switch or swing to the opposite. Once we've reached the state of more integration or greater balance, we can more masterfully play the different roles without getting overly immersed in them. You could think of it like a person who's an actor or actress who stars in plays or movies or television programs, and for the time that they're playing a particular role, they get kind of immersed in that role and that character, and they act a certain way to be that character, to be convincing and effective in that acting role. But then once that particular production is complete, that actor or actress has to shift. They're not continuing the rest of their life in that same role. They may star in other productions where they have to act as different types of characters. And we can use that analogy to look at our actual quote-unquote real life, where we might be a certain character or role in certain situations or relationships, but we can't maintain that in every situation and relationship because it kind of keeps us stuck. We can become kind of rigid or inflexible, unable to evolve or adapt to become a fully functional person in all the different situations or environments that we encounter in our lives. So you can observe yourself and different roles that you're playing in your relationships. Are you a person who's looking for rescuers or saviors, or a person who's looking to be a rescuer or savior? Are you constantly trying to step in and fix things for other people, whether they're inviting or welcoming you to do that or not? If you're caught up in one role and you find that it's hard to shift, you can take some time to center yourself and just start to imagine, what would it be like if I wasn't playing that role, if I wasn't acting as that particular character? how would my life be different? You also want to be confident in yourself, to trust that you can shift or change, that you're not limited to a particular role, that you're actually connected to the power of creation itself, to sort of unlimited possibilities and potentials. So you may have become very skilled or masterful in a sense at one particular role, but you can also develop mastery in other roles. In fact, the more different types of roles you can develop skills and mastery with, the more whole or fully functioning a human being you can be. I hope that this short video has given you some things to contemplate, some ideas to consider, and some patterns in your life and your relationships to observe, understanding that we can all work toward greater balance, greater wholeness and integration in our being. For those that are interested in more holistic healing resources, I invite you to visit my website, which is phinsights.com, phinsights.com. For now, I wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.